AITA for dumping my girlfriend for choosing her ex over my graduation? My name is Jacob, and I was dating Sophia for almost 3 full years. We crossed paths in college at a stage where we were both immersed in our own majors, but we still connected. From the beginning, ours was a pretty calm relationship, without unnecessary drama. I saw it as something stable, balanced, and, to be honest, quite mature. It was not the kind of relationship full of constant fights or exaggerated ups and downs. Everything flowed normally. A few months into our relationship, Sophia was very clear with me about her past. She told me she had a previous relationship with a guy named Leo. As she explained, they had ended on good terms because they simply realized they didn't work as a couple. There was no cheating, no heavy scenes, no scandalous breakups. Just two people who accepted it wasn't working out and decided to separate in a civilized way. Even so, I have to admit that inside it caused me a little discomfort. Not because she had an ex, that is something totally normal, but because of the neutral way she talked about him. There was no noticeable resentment, but neither was there sadness nor nostalgia. She mentioned him with the same emotion one uses to tell an anecdote about someone distant, as if he had not meant much. Despite that weird feeling, I preferred not to overthink the matter. Sophia assured me that she no longer had any kind of contact with him, and that Leo had also gone to Japan to study for several years. That gave me peace of mind. In my head, he was someone completely out of her present, almost like an archived memory. During the almost 3 years we were together, I never saw any red flags. Sophia did not hide her cell phone. She did not disappear without warning. She had no sudden changes in attitude, and she was always open with me. When she talked about her past, she did it without drama, as if it no longer carried any weight in her life. Over time, I also stopped thinking about Leo. To me, he was just a person who belonged to another stage of her story, but everything took a turn one day in the most unexpected way. We were having a quiet dinner when, as if commenting on something unimportant, Sophia told me that Leo had returned from Japan. Her tone was completely flat, without emotion, as if she were telling me some irrelevant news. Then she added that some mutual friends were organizing a get-together to welcome him back, and that she wanted to invite me to go with her. I did not like the idea. It was not that I distrusted her, but from my point of view, it didn't make much sense to reunite with an ex in a party environment. I told her I preferred not to go. I tried to explain that it was not an attack against her, but simply a situation I wasn't comfortable with. Sophia stayed silent for a few seconds and then blurted out, "You are right. I am sorry. I was foolish to suggest it. It is a bad idea." Her reaction took me by surprise. She did not argue or try to convince me. She seemed to understand my position, and the subject was dropped. Or at least that is what I thought. A few days passed, and the date of the get-together arrived. That night, while I was on social media, I saw several posts from a party. I recognized several of Sophia's friends, and also Leo. In the photos, you could clearly see it was a celebration, with music, drinks, and people laughing. Up to that point, nothing out of the ordinary. But reading the comments, something felt off. One said, "Look, Sophia, what you missed." That alone was not a big deal. But what left me cold was her reply, public and unfiltered. My toxic boyfriend did not let me. I felt like I took a direct punch to the stomach. She had never called me that before. I never forbade her from going anywhere. I did not tell her she could not attend. I only expressed that the situation made me uncomfortable, and she herself had said it was a bad idea. I texted her immediately to ask why she had posted that. When we spoke, she got defensive right away. She told me it was a joke, that her friends knew what I was like, and that I should not take it so seriously. I replied that I did not see the humor in it, that she was making me look like a controlling person in front of others when I was not. That is when the conversation escalated, although without yelling. Sophia said my annoyance proved I had toxic attitudes, that getting uncomfortable over things like that was a form of control. I explained to her that it was not control, but respect, and that she had crossed a line by exposing me that way publicly. The talk ended badly. That day, neither of us wanted to keep talking. I thought that we could calmly clear things up later, but it did not take long for the topic to return. Days later, Sophia mentioned that Leo's birthday was approaching and she wanted to drop by to say hello. According to her, it would be something small, just staying for a little while. I asked her the date. When she told me, I felt something break inside. It was July 25th, the exact same day as my graduation. I reminded her that this date was extremely important to me, that I had worked for years to reach that moment, and that she knew it perfectly well. She said yes, that she was well aware, but she just wanted to congratulate him, stay about 15 minutes, and then leave. Then I asked her something that came from deep within me. Why was it so necessary for her to go to the birthday of someone who, according to her own words, no longer meant anything? She replied that it was not out of importance, but out of politeness, to avoid looking bad in front of their friend group. That hurt me more than I expected. I could not understand how she was even considering attending her ex's birthday on the exact day of my graduation. She got upset too. She said I was forcing her to choose, and that deep down I did not trust her. The argument was intense, although we never raised our voices. We both said things that made it clear the problem was not just a party or a date. That is when I started to realize something I did not want to accept. We were no longer arguing just about a birthday or my graduation, but about something much deeper. As the days passed, my graduation was getting closer. I tried to focus on the preparations, to close out the chapter that took me years to finish, but the issue with Sophia kept spinning in my head. I felt it was not just any fight. It touched on issues of respect, priorities, and what each of us considered important within a relationship. For the ceremony, they gave me 3 tickets. 2 were for my parents, and the third I could give to whoever I wanted. From the beginning, I took it for granted that it would be for Sophia. She had been with me during part of my degree. She had seen my sleepless nights, my exams, my moments of frustration. It seemed logical for her to be there. Still, there was something that did not leave me completely at ease. My younger brother, Ben, had asked me if he could go to my graduation. When I explained that I only had 1 extra ticket and that I was giving it to Sophia, he said there was no problem, that he understood. But even with such a mature answer, his reaction kept echoing in my head. It was no longer just about a graduation ticket, but something deeper. I needed certainty. I started to wonder what would happen if Sophia ended up not going. Just the idea of leaving my own brother out to give that spot to someone who might not show up created a strong internal conflict for me. I did not want the day to arrive and see an empty seat saved for her, so I decided to talk about it up front. I told her I needed to know for sure if she was going to attend, because that ticket had a lot of value to me. I explained that I had chosen to give it to her instead of my brother, and that if she was not sure about going, I preferred to know ahead of time to change my decision. Her reaction was not what I expected. Sophia told me she still planned to go to Leo's birthday, and that she did not understand why I was making such a big deal out of it all. Then I clarified that it was not just the ticket, but what it all symbolized. I told her that beyond the graduation, the fact that she wanted to go to her ex's birthday didn't align with my idea of a healthy relationship. I was very clear about my way of seeing things. When someone starts a new relationship, ex-partners should stay in the past. I also told her I didn't really believe in the whole exes can be just friends thing without any lingering emotions or consequences. That truly upset her. She gave me a look of disappointment I had never seen on her before. She looked at me as if what I had just said completely changed her image of me and replied, "I thought you were more mature. I believed I was with a man, not a child." Those words hurt me more than I thought. Without getting worked up, I answered that it was not an issue of immaturity, but of boundaries. I explained that I was not trying to control her, but to express something that was important to me. She insisted that my way off thinking was close-minded and that my view on relationships stemmed from insecurity. Once again, the conversation ended badly. Neither of us gave in, and we said goodbye with a different feeling than in previous arguments. It was no longer just anger, it was exhaustion. The next day, to my surprise, Sophia called me. Her voice sounded different, calmer, even apologetic. She told me she had been reflecting on what happened and realized she had reacted poorly. She assured me she had been foolish to say those things, and that she was the one who was actually being immature. I decided to hear her out. We met in person that same day. When we sat down to talk, she told me she understood why I felt hurt and that it had not been fair to minimize my feelings. Then she did something I did not expect. She took out her phone and showed me that she had blocked Leo from all her social networks and his phone number too. She explained that she did not want that issue to keep damaging our relationship, that keeping someone from the past no longer made sense, and that she wanted to give me peace of mind by proving to me that he was completely out of her life. She assured me she would not have contact with him again. That calmed me down, not because I needed proof, but because I felt that for the first time in this whole matter, she was truly taking my feelings into account. We ended the conversation on good terms. We said goodbye feeling like we had overcome an obstacle and that everything was falling back into place. Or at least that is what I thought. Finally, the day of my graduation arrived. I woke up early with that weird mix of nerves and excitement. It was a very important date for me and also for my family. My brother Ben texted to congratulate me and wish me luck. Before hanging up, he reminded me that they had prepared a small celebration that night for my graduation. His message brought a smile to my face. I thought that despite everything, it would be a special day. My parents and I arrived early at the ceremony venue. The atmosphere was full of families, students in caps and gowns, and cameras everywhere. You could feel a mix of pride and emotion in the air that is hard to explain. I looked toward the bleachers for the spot where my parents would sit and the seat I had saved for Sophia. I told myself she would surely arrive at any moment. The ceremony started. I listened to the speeches and watched as they called the students one by one. I applauded when I was supposed to, but every so often I turned my gaze toward the audience, hoping to see her appear. The minutes passed, and her seat remained empty. I tried not to give it too much thought. I thought maybe she was delayed by traffic or some small setback. I sent her a message asking if she was on her way. She did not answer. More time passed. The list progressed, and my name was getting closer. I checked my phone again. Nothing. I decided to call her once. She did not answer. Then I started to feel a real unease. I wanted to focus on the moment, but I could not stop thinking about why she was not answering. I called her again. Still nothing. Little by little, worry started to outweigh the anger. It crossed my mind that maybe something had happened to her. When they called my name, I walked to the front, received the diploma, and heard my parents' applause. I smiled for the photos, but inside I had a knot in my stomach. This was a moment I had imagined sharing with her. After the ceremony ended, I tried calling her again. Nothing. Then I decided to do something I did not want to do. Call her mother. The total lack of communication already had me too anxious. When she answered, I asked if she knew anything about Sophia. Her answer left me cold. She left a while ago, she told me. She said she was going to meet you. She was not with me, and quite some time had already passed. I hung up with a growing anguish. If Sophia had left her house saying she was coming to see me and was not there, then I had no idea where she was or what had happened. For the first time since all this started, I stopped thinking about fights, boundaries, or arguments. I only thought about the possibility that something had happened to her, and that was what scared me the most. My parents also started to worry. At first, they tried to calm me down by saying she might have had an unforeseen issue and would appear soon. But as the minutes passed, the silence became heavier and heavier. There were no messages, no calls, no sign of her. This was all still in the morning. The ceremony ended around 1 in the afternoon. At that point, what I felt was no longer simple anger or disappointment. It was a real worry tightening my chest. No one knew where Sophia was or why she was not answering. I called her several more times during the afternoon, and the same thing always happened. The phone would ring and then go to voicemail. She never read my messages, and she answered nothing. My parents looked at me with a mix of anguish and bewilderment. They knew we had argued in the last few weeks, but they never imagined something like this could happen. As the hours passed, the tension rose. Around 7 at night, the 4 of us were in the car, my parents, Sophia's mom, and me. We decided to go looking for her in places she might be. Coffee shops, friends' houses, her usual hangouts. We did not have a real plan. It was more of a desperate attempt to do something instead of just waiting. Sophia's mom was in the back. She cried silently, her hands trembling. She kept repeating that something bad must have happened, that her daughter was not the type to behave like this, that something was wrong. Every word of hers weighed heavier on my chest. I felt my heart shrinking. My mind started going to the worst places, accidents, dangers, any horrible scenario. And in the midst of that fear, guilt appeared. I thought about our recent arguments, about the harsh things we said to each other. I wondered if my actions had pushed her to leave upset and end up in a dangerous situation. I felt awful for spending the days before my graduation fighting instead of enjoying them. We kept driving around with no results. Night was falling and the anguish was growing. Inside the car, we barely spoke. The atmosphere was heavy, full of thoughts no one dared to say out loud. Suddenly, my phone vibrated. It was a Facebook notification. Sophia had been tagged in a post. I felt a chill run down my spine. I opened the notification instantly. The post said, "Happy birthday, Leo. We missed you, buddy." One of his friends had uploaded it. I scrolled down to the photos and felt like I could not breathe. It was clearly a party hall with decorations, drinks, music, and people everywhere. And there was Sophia. Not only was she present, but in almost all the pictures she appeared hugging Leo, glued to him, smiling as if the rest of the world did not exist. I stared at the screen for several seconds without reacting. Suddenly, everything clicked. The silence, her absence, the lie. I showed the phone to her mother. She stopped crying. Her face changed completely. Her expression hardened, and with a firmness I did not know she had. She said, "She is not getting away with this." She sounded disappointed, exhausted, and deeply upset. We drove her back to her house. On the way, almost nobody spoke. Before getting out, she just told me to take care of myself and not to blame myself for what had happened. Then she closed the door and went inside. It was almost 10 at night when I finally got to my room. I sat on the bed with the diploma in my hands. That paper that for years had symbolized effort, sacrifice, and fulfilled goals felt empty in that moment. Everything I had imagined for that day was ruined. Then my phone rang. It was Sophia. I answered. Her voice was clearly impaired. She was slurring her words, and behind her, laughter and music could be heard. "Hello, sweetie," she said. "How are you? Congratulations on graduating. I think I am a little late." The laughter continued in the background. I felt a mix of rage and bewilderment. "What is wrong with you, Sophia?" I said. "Do you know what you put me through today? Do you know what you did to your mom?" She laughed. "Oh, you know how moms are. I already talked to her." The ridiculous woman started crying, but she will get over it. I could not believe what I was hearing. "You are not well, Sophia. This is not normal. I do not recognize you." She laughed again. "It is your fault for being toxic. You said not to come to the party. I only wanted to be there for a few minutes. Now because you are toxic, I stayed all day." Louder bursts of laughter were heard, voices of other girls. "That is what happens when you are controlling and toxic," one said amidst the laughter. I felt something break inside me. "You are a cruel person," I said. "We are finally over." She pretended to cry, but with a mocking tone. "How sad. I am left without the love of my life. Please, your biggest achievement is graduating. Leo already has a house. He has traveled the world. You do not know anything outside of Ohio, do you? Well, you went to Canada once. How international." The laughter exploded in the background. I took a deep breath. I did not yell anymore. "I don't care if there was something inappropriate between you and Leo. That already speaks for itself about you. But what you did today to your mom, who was not to blame for anything, is the most disgusting part of it all. You are a disgusting person. Go far away." I hung up. I blocked her from everywhere. I sat in silence with the diploma in my hands, understanding that on that day, I had not only closed an academic chapter, but also a relationship that clearly was never what I thought it was. I thought the worst had happened that night. I believed that after hanging up, blocking her, and being left alone with my thoughts, nothing else could surprise me. I was wrong. In the following days, I kept processing everything. I tried to return to a normal routine, although inside I felt empty. My graduation, which should have been a happy memory, had become something bitter. Still, I told myself that it was over and the best thing was to move on. Then I remembered something that hit me like a delayed blow. Sophia's graduation was on August 1st, just a few days after mine. That fact started spinning in my head, even though I tried not to think about it. I did not want to know anything more about her. I did not want to look her up on social media, or ask about her life, or open a door I had already closed. But I did not have to. One of my friends texted me. His message said, "Bro, what happened with Sophia? Why is she posting this?" It came with a screenshot. I opened the image, and there she was in her cap and gown, smiling and hugging Leo. It was clearly a picture from her graduation. They both looked too comfortable, too close, as if no distance had ever existed between them. The caption said, "A woman always goes back to the man who made her happy." I stared at the photo for several seconds. I did not feel a fit of rage. It was something stranger, as if what was already broken had completely turned to dust in front of me. I replied to my friend, telling him everything from the beginning, the arguments, the graduation incident, her disappearance, the party, the phone call, absolutely everything, without holding anything back. It took him a bit to answer, and when he did, he was direct. Are you serious? What a terrible person. How could she do that to you? And her mom, poor woman. You know what? People need to know this. I asked him who. He answered, you will see. At that moment, I did not give it much importance. I thought he was just upset for me and that it would all remain just words. I had no energy for more drama or any desire to keep stirring up the subject. Hours later, he texted me another screenshot. This time it was not the original post, but the comments under the photo. There were messages like, you are a horrible person. Your poor mother. This is what a shameless person looks like. I was surprised, but also confused. I asked him what had happened. He explained that his sister was in the same major as Sophia and had also graduated that day. He had told his sister the whole story, and she shared it in their majors group chat. According to him, everyone already knew what Sophia had done, and nobody was defending her. Everyone is tearing her apart, he wrote. I stared at my phone without knowing exactly what to feel. There was no satisfaction, no joy, no feeling of she deserves it, but no guilt either. It was something strange, as if everything had simply reached an inevitable end. I did not ask for her to be exposed. I did not put together any plan. I did nothing to make that happen. Yet it happened. A short, dry laugh escaped me, more ironic than mocking. The kind that comes out when you suddenly understand something clearly. For weeks I had been wondering if I had exaggerated, if I had been too harsh, if my boundaries were as wrong as she claimed. I questioned myself more than she ever seemed to question herself. And in the end, reality spoke for itself. Not because of people's insults, but because her own story collapsed under its own weight. While she tried to show herself as someone happy, free, and secure, what it really revealed was a huge lack of emotional responsibility. I thought a lot about her mother, about how she cried in the car, about her face when she saw the photos, about that quiet disappointment that needed no words. For me, that was the most revealing part of it all. It was not just what she did to me, but how little she cared about the pain she caused someone who only cared about her. As the days passed, I understood something important. I was not losing someone valuable. I had lost an idea I myself had built about someone who was never really like that. And even though it hurt, it was also a form of liberation. Today, I look at my diploma and I no longer associate it with that disaster. I see it as the closing of a chapter that I managed to complete, surrounded by people who were actually present. I understood that having boundaries does not make you immature. It makes you self-aware, and that often the best response is not to seek revenge or explain your side of the story, but to let people show themselves for who they truly are. Because sooner or later, they always do. Comment. I want to take a moment to share a few thoughts on what happens when the truth finally comes to light. Setting healthy boundaries is never an act of immaturity, but rather a profound sign of self-respect. It is incredibly hard to accept that someone we cared for deeply was just an illusion we built in our own minds. Yet, walking away in silence without seeking revenge is often the most powerful form of healing. A person's true character is always reflected in how they treat the people who love them unconditionally. We simply do not have to carry the heavy burden of someone else's lack of emotional responsibility. Choosing peace over chaos is the greatest gift you can give yourself after a difficult experience. Every painful ending provides a clean slate to surround yourself with people who genuinely value your presence. I hope you always find the courage to protect your energy and prioritize your well-being. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.